Solidarity, comrades. Today I am here to answer some more questions that were left to me on my most recent answer video. I had only a few people ask questions, but the questions were very good ones, so I felt the need to make a video regarding this. Let's go. Let's get this started. The first user to ask a question asked several questions, so this one's going to take a while to answer. Brandon R asked the best questions, in my opinion, the most thoughtful questions that they wanted to know that quite a few things. So we'll start with them. They wanted to know about a list of books regarding Maoism, not written by Mao. And when you ask about Maoism, I'm going to assume that you mean Marxism, Leninism, Maoism. And the books that I'm going to recommend are not all the books that I could recommend, but I will link all the books that I I will list all the books that I'll recommend below. But I'm going to do this in the context of Marxism, Leninism, Maoism, because that is my ideological standpoint. So here's some I recommend. The Science of Revolution by Lenny Wolf. Maoist Economics and the Revolution and the Road to Communism, aka the Shanghai Textbook. Fangxin, a documentary of revolution in a Chinese village by William Hinton. Why Maoism by Prakash. The Communist Party of India Maoist, Marxism, Leninism, Maoism Study Notes. Marx to Mao Zedong by Thompson. Capitalism and After by Thompson. The Human Essence by Thompson. The Revolutionary Communist Party of Canada program. Siki or Suchi. Sorry if I butcher any of these names. Antagonistic and non-antagonistic contradictions. Althusser on materialist dialectics. Sakai, Settlers. I highly recommend Settlers by Sakai. Amin, Eurocentrism. Tani and Sarah, False Nationalism and False Internationalism. Yami, People's War and Women's Liberation. Bettelheim, Class Struggles in the USSR, the first period. Class Struggles in the USSR, the second period. Althusser, Ideology and Ideological State Apparatus. Did I get that right? Althusser, one moment, please. Althusser's Ideology and Ideological State Apparatuses. Sorry about that. Naftali, Notes on Mass Line, Communist Organization and Revolution. Hong Chi, Long Live Leninism. Our Revolutionary International Movement, Long Live Marxism, Leninism, Maoism. At Marxism, Leninism, Maoism, and Marxism, Leninism, and Mao Zedong thought are not the same. I mean, the laws of worldwide value. Broma, the worker elite. Beale, the new imperialism, and Beale, the entropy of capitalism. So whenever I answered this question, he said he wanted works that weren't contributed by Mao. And Mao is greatly influenced by Marx, Engels, Lenin, and Stalin as well. And I left out them as well, but I will list their works down below if you want an entire study guide regarding Marxism, Leninism, Maoism. But I left them out because they're the more better known ones, so I put a list of lesser known ones in the video. The second question Brandon R. asked is, what do I think of Maoism Third Worldism? I think Maoism Third Worldism is not a new idea. I think that Maoism Third Worldism is taking Lenin's labor aristocracy theory and applying it to current global imperialist material conditions. So, for example, Lenin wrote that the highest form of capitalism is imperialism, and that the workers of the imperialist nations benefit so much from that imperialism that they have more to lose than their chains, that they will not do revolution. And until that imperialism in the imperialist countries is destroyed, that they cannot do revolution. And Maoist third worldists say that no first worldist or imperialist workers will ever do revolution until imperialism global imperialism has collapsed. And I think I agree with that to a certain extent, and I think there are some things that the third worldists say that I disagree with, but when with their analysis of what is imperialist and what is not imperialist. But I think overall it's not a new idea. I think it's an old idea applied to a new material condition. And the final question that Brandon R. asked is, what do I think of Juche? Now, there are many things I disagree with Juche, like its rejection of materialism, materialist dialectics, but I think that Juche is, to an extent, an extension of Marxism-Leninism regarding the conditions of the DPRK. The DPRK is a state that has been isolated and strangled by global imperialism, and it is a miracle that these resilient people have been able to unite and survive against all odds. And Juche is very interesting. I highly recommend you read about it. Kim Il-sung, Kim Jong-il, both wrote greatly about Juche. Kim Il-sung especially was a very smart and good man. Juche has allowed the DPRK to survive the stranglehold of imperialism, and I think that it is a good thing. And I think under the conditions of the DPRK that they need to continue to use Juche until global imperialism has been destroyed, has been crushed. All right, now after the first user asked those many questions, I hope I answered them good. We had a second user. The second user, Alex M. Alex M/N asked, what do I think of anarchism? Anarchism, I assume you mean leftist anarchism, like libertarian socialists, because right anarchism isn't anarchism at all. It's just classical liberalism with a dash of greed and crazy Ayn Rand bullshit. Anyway, but I assume you mean leftist anarchists like Bakunin and Kropotkin and Proudhon, people like that. I think that anarchism is idealistic. I think it's unrealistic. I think it cannot work in practice because it has never worked in practice. And as Mao said, correct ideas come from practice. Anarchism is dangerous to building socialism. Any anarchist movement in the history of socialist revolutions have done nothing but try to sabotage those socialist revolutions. If you look at the First International, Bakunin was literally trying to destroy the first socialist international. If you look at the Russian Revolution, the anarchists were trying to, in Ukraine, and the Kronstadt rebellion were trying to overthrow a socialist worker revolution. And if you look at the Spanish Civil War, the CNT, the anarchists amongst the Popular Front, did nothing but hinder the efforts of the Popular Front, and if anything, they did less than they did actually help. There's a good video by the Communist Party of Great Britain, Marxist-Leninists, on their YouTube channel Proletarian TV, talking about how the anarchists and Trotskyists actually hindered the efforts against the fascists under Franco. And if you look at a lot of libertarian socialists, they'll say that, oh, but we have examples of working anarchism. It was just sabotaged by you statists. That's not true. If you look at the anarchists in the Ukraine, you can see that they had a state, they had government officials, they had leadership. All they were doing was rebelling against real socialism. And if you look at the CNT, the Catalonian anarchists during the Spanish Civil War, they had a state, they had prison camps, they had elected officials, they had a state. So there has never been an actual anarchist state to look at for an example. I mean, if you could find one for me that actually existed, a stateless anarchist movement, then without leadership or anything like that, I would love to see it. It's idealistic, it's utopian, and it does not work. And I think that it hinders building actual socialism. It's like skipping the stage of socialism, like skipping right to communism, which isn't possible. You have to allow the socialist state to wither, as Lenin said. The user, the Victorian, asked, do I ever plan to visit the DPRK? Yes, it's actually one of my lifelong dreams to visit the DPRK. It's a beautiful country, and I would love to see its unique culture and its unique conditions that it's lived under, and I would love nothing more than to visit the DPRK. And I am geographically somewhat close to it, so hopefully one day when my situation allows for it, I will visit the DPRK. And then the final user asked 3 questions. Their name was Hi or Hee Hi. They asked on the thoughts of the current state of Cuba under Raul Castro allowing for small and medium-sized businesses to exist. Now, first of all, let me say, I truly have faith in Cuban socialism. It's strong. It's survived this long, just like how the DPRK's form of socialism has survived. For allowing these medium-sized and small and medium-sized businesses, this is just an application of materialistic, the material conditions. It's an application of dialectics to material conditions. Cuba needs to survive. And socialism isn't like this instant, we're a socialist state now we can instantly build communism. You need to persist through imperialism, as Lenin said, until the highest form of capitalism is imperialism. Until that imperialism is destroyed, you cannot achieve communism. You cannot achieve socialism, full socialism. So Cuba is trying to survive under their system, and allowing these small and medium-sized businesses is just their method of existing while the world tries to strangle them through economic imperialism. And I don't think this is a revert or a revision of their socialism. I think it is an adaptation to the current material conditions. And then they asked we'll end it on a lighter note. They asked the same user, Hi, asked some meme questions, like one of them was, "Are communist memes the leftist propaganda tools of the 21st century?" And I think, yeah, I mean, to a certain extent, I think that using leftist memes, using communist memes, can get people interested in communism. I think it is one of many tools that we can use in the 21st century. So yeah, I think that they're not the only tools of propaganda, but they can be used as propaganda. I think that that's a fun and simple way to educate, or at least get interest in communism. And then they asked the final question: what is my favorite communist meme of all time? Wow. My favorite communist meme of all time has to be the Trotsky ice pick meme. Anything that has to do with the ice pick, Mercator is a hero, Stalin ice pick, or the portrait of Trotsky where he's like this and it says ice picking intensifies. I'd have to say that's probably my favorite communist meme of all time. I think those are pretty funny. And also, Enver Hoxha bunker memes. You got to build bunkers in Albania. I love some Hoxha memes. So thank you for watching this video, and thank you for the questions. If there are more questions asked, I'll keep this series going. And thank you for watching. Solidarity, comrade.